Well, anyway, Monisa, well, thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed today about the Opportunity Scholars Program, now the Machen Florida Opportunity Scholars Program. And we asked you to be with us today because you have played a really important role in the development of the program. And we're excited to get your thoughts on that. But first, I wonder if you wouldn't mind talking about the role that education played in your life growing up, kind of, where you grew up, what education meant to you, kind of the values of education.
Sure. Well, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me and letting me share my story. So I was born in Okinawa, Japan. My mother is Japanese and my father was in the Army, and they met in Okinawa. And so I really had the wonderful benefit of growing up in a diverse household. And on my mother's side, education was very, very important. Her father was in the school system in Japan. So I think the importance of education was profound and a high priority in her family, and thus, emphasized with me. So growing up, it was important. I did go to American schools. At the time, Okinawa was a U.S. territory. So I had the benefit of growing up in a bicultural, upbringing and household. I had Japanese relatives, but I went to an American school, had American friends. So I really had that I think a wonderful blended experience. So in a nutshell, education was very important. We moved to Florida when I was 8 years old, went to Orlando. I went to public school, so I've always gone to a public school. And during high school, I had the opportunity to visit several college campuses and just fell in love with the University of Florida. I just knew the moment that I went there that it was the right place for me. It just, everything about it felt right. But in my immediate family, I am a first generation student. We didn't have this program per se back then, which is one of the reasons I think it's so important and so crucial, to promote the MFOS program going forward. But it was Gainesville, University of Florida. I always tell people it was the best years of my life, and I try to instill that when I talk to students today, that it is an amazing experience and something that you'll look back on forever and with just great fun memories. But just to answer your question, I think education has always been important to me. It was instilled in me to make good grades, study hard, work hard. And I just feel very fortunate that I had that opportunity at Florida to get my degree there.
Yeah. Monisa, thinking back on your work now with Opportunity Scholars and back to when you were an undergraduate at UF and just starting, what were some of the challenges that you faced as a first generation college student?
Well, back then, this was in the 80s, we didn't have the Opportunity Scholarship Program. So you really had to rely on, finding money, applying for scholarships. I got some scholarships, getting grants, and just various sources. I did work before college and during college. I had a lot of different jobs. So it's amazing that when I think back on it, that I was able to accomplish what I did, but thankfully today we do have a lot of opportunities through the MFOS program.
Very cool. Can you tell us when you first learned about the Opportunity Scholars Program?
Sure. Actually, it was after when I was an alumni. I had somebody from the University of Florida organization call on me in Houston. I live in Houston, Texas now. And we started talking about various ways that I could support my alma mater in ways that I can give back. And so we started talking about the MFOS program. And as I learned more and more about it, I said, I want to get involved. So it was at that time that I joined, I got an invitation to join, first as a guest and then eventually as a member, the Leadership Council, which is what I'm involved with today. And I have the pleasure and honor of leading that group today. But so I learned about it at first as an alumni. It was that well after the fact. I was here in Houston, Texas, and just getting involved with the Leadership Council, getting to know the team that supports it. I just fell in love and became very passionate about being an ambassador for MFOS. And that's really what the Leadership Council does. That's really what we're all about, is making sure we're the cheerleaders of MFOS, making sure, telling the story, making sure people that know about the program and spreading the word. And so it's a great council, and we've accomplished a lot in the last few years, and very proud of the team's success and all that they've accomplished.
Monisa, this is great because we haven't had the chance. We've been talking mainly to some of the early founders of the program. This past semester, we talked to some of the current students and alumni. So this is wonderful because, to my knowledge, this is really the best chance we have to get information about kind of how the Leadership Council operates and what role does the Leadership Council play in kind of the shaping and operation of the Opportunity Scholars Program.
Okay. Well, there's about 20 members today. Obviously, it's a volunteer group, and it's a wonderful mix of people that some are Gators, some are not, but they all have a passion for supporting first-gen students. And so it's people from all over the state, all over the country. We try to meet twice a year. And again, really our role is to support the program. We're the cheerleaders, we support it. We also support it in different ways, getting involved with the students. There's a lot of, obviously in addition to scholarship, there's a lot of soft skills, if you will, that we can support. For example, I had the opportunity of hosting a business dinner etiquette session, talking to the scholars about, you might be interviewed over dinner or lunch. What are some etiquette? What are some interview tips? What are some conversation, things that you should be talking about? Things like that, LinkedIn, recruiting. So in addition to the scholarship aspect, the classroom support, we have a wonderful opportunity of meeting and integrating with the scholars, if you will, and supporting some of that additional soft skills, if you will, and helping in that way. So we've had a lot of success with that. We try to, interact with them at graduation, during the ceremonies. President Fox hosts receptions, so we try to participate in that. So throughout the year, in addition to our meeting and having some structured goals and programs, we do try to interact with them as much as we can.
Excellent. Monisa, can you tell me, what for you, what some of the memorable interactions you've had with the scholars? Maybe some. Sure.
I think I briefly mentioned the business dinner etiquette session that I was able to co-host with Leslie and some of the others, and just the impact that you have. We had some of the scholars say, I didn't even know that you could possibly be interviewed over a meal, things like that. People, you only know what you know, right? And so I think it's very rewarding and to know that you can have an impact on people's lives going forward, not just while they're at the University of Florida, but after they obtain their degree and they're out in the workplace. What are the things that they can be doing to help themselves and improve their chances of getting that perfect job, for them after school. So that is one. Also here in Houston, we had an alumni event. We got a group of MFOS scholars together, And it was a wonderful opportunity to see these students that are now in the real work world, being successful. One was an attorney. One was an anchor person for the ABC news station here, who I see on TV all the time. So, we've been able to keep that network going, which is so important because that's part of, I think the mission is to have that network continue, not just while you're at school, but also afterwards. So I think for me, those are just a couple of examples of some memorable events of interacting with the students, both during, while they're on campus, but also after graduation as an alumni, especially here in Houston. So it's been really, really neat to see all that, how that all comes together.
Cool. How do you, thinking, Monisa, about the Leadership Council, it's really fascinating to think of this group of 20 really important individuals who obviously have a lot of expertise in different areas. How do you, now I understand you're the chair. Yeah. How do you approach your work as chair of the Leadership Council, understanding its diversity? Some people are UF alumni, others not. How do you kind of lead this really diverse group of individuals to fulfill the scholar's mission?
That's a great question. And you use, I think, a key word, which is diversity. I mean, one of the things that we really try to promote and instill through MFOS is supporting University of Florida's DEI initiative, diversity, equity, inclusion, right? And this council does just that. It's a very diverse group. We come from different organizations, different areas, and it's a wonderful composition of people. We do change it up. There's certain a term limit, if you will. So after a couple of terms, we do try to rotate it. So I think my role as a leader is making sure that we have good qualified, good representation from a diverse group, which we have, and making sure that everybody's fully engaged and aware of what we do as an organization. And I think we've done that. The council, I believe, started around 2014. So it's been around for a few years. And as you know, MFOS is celebrating 15 years this year. So it's been a really, I think, integral key and component of the success and growth of MFOS. The other thing that we just launched, that we just announced this year, is the MAC program, which is the MFOS Alumni Council. And that's actually being headed by two MFOS scholars, Bung and Marco. And that's just getting kicked off this fall. And that's exciting because that's an offshoot of the Leadership Council, but it's also integrating, if you will, the young alumni that actually had experience and came through the MFOS program. So we're really excited about that.
Excellent. Monisa, you mentioned earlier you see part of your role as being kind of a cheerleader for Opportunity Scholars. Given the fact that a lot of people, go to universities like UF and, they might be third, fourth, fifth generation college students. And as we know, sometimes individuals, maybe take for granted, the privileges they have in the society. How do you sell MFOS to someone who might be in that category, but you may want to say, hey, I really want to have this person working at least for us, or maybe even supporting the program? So I guess, in other words, I apologize for the overlying question. It really distills down into, like, how do you really sell this program to someone who may not understand right away the importance of the program?
That's a great question. Well, I think the success of the program speaks for itself. If you look at the numbers and the accomplishments of these scholars, first of all, these are all excellent students. It's highly competitive to get into the University of Florida. And these are very highly qualified, highly intelligent, high potential individuals. And so if you think of it from that perspective, these are people that are going to be our future. They're going to be our future workforce, right? Our future leaders. And so I think irrespective of how many generations you've been involved with going to college or have family members going to college, if you understand the big picture and the impact that you're having on society, number one, and number two, supporting DEI, right? It's diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. So if you think of it from that perspective, I think it's a wonderful program. People buy into it when they meet the students, when they meet the scholars. They immediately get it. They immediately get it. Like, I'm having an impact on someone's life and their future. It's just providing that opportunity, right? And so, following that, one of the things that we do and that the university does is very important to get to the various high schools in Florida through the guidance counselors. And that's how we promote the program. That's a major tool and resource in the way that we promote the program to get the word out to these potential scholars and potential students about MFOS.
What have been over the years? I know you've had the opportunity to interact with alumni and current students in different settings. What have been some of your favorite stories, that have kind of made an impact on you that the students have or alumni have told?
Oh my gosh. There are so many, and that's one of the things that we try to do at each of our meetings is to bring in a current or former or potential scholar, and their parents, and they come in and they tell our story, tell their story about how they found out about MFOS and how it's impacted their lives. And so there's several. I don't think I can just choose one, but let me tell you, every single one of them brings a tear to your eye because it's so touching and so moving and so real. It's so authentic and what they are able to experience. So I can't pick one, but I will just tell you that every single one of them, it's a great story and it's very, very compelling and moving.
Excellent. Monisa, what are your, thinking as your position as chair of the Leadership Council and how you've seen this program develop, can you tell us about the importance of that Leslie Pendleton has to the program? Kind of what makes her special from your vantage point?
Let me tell you, Dr. Leslie Pendleton is a rock star. She really is. She is an amazing, amazing human being. And the thing that I really admire about her is she has the whole picture and she has the whole package. She's able to articulate and talk about MFOS to whether it's the Leadership Council, alumni, to the administration. But she also has that wonderful ability of interacting with the scholars, and they all just admire her. They respect her, and she has a tremendous amount of influence with them, right? And so she really has that full, I think, 360 perspective of looking at it from an overarching program, executing, if you will. So she knows how to lay out the goals. She's a visionary. She executes and she delivers. And at the same time, she's able to interact and really get the buy-in of everybody, whether you're a peer, a colleague, alumni, a donor, or a student and scholar. So she is an amazing, and that energy level, she has that high level energy, enthusiasm, and can do. There's nothing that's a problem that can't be solved for Leslie. She's an amazing, and I just can't say enough great things about her. We're lucky to have her.
What have been some of the areas you feel that Opportunity Scholars could improve upon in terms of its the way it's kind of everyday operations or kind of the scale and scope of the program?
Yeah, I think the best thing that we can do, and we're doing this right through this program, if you will, is to tell the story, spread the word, spread the success rate that we've had, spread all the stories that you've asked about in terms of the different scholars and their experience. So I see that as our greatest opportunity because it sells itself. You know, once you share the impact that you've had on these people's lives, these students and scholars' lives, people just jump right in and get behind it. So I think that is our greatest opportunity, if you will, is to continue to tell the story about MFOS.
Okay, and connected to that, Monisa, what are your long-term goals for MFOS? You know, say 5, 10, 15 years down the road. How would you like to see the program develop?
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, we just increased the program. It was 300 students per year, new students. And this past year, we just increased that by 50. So we're up to 350. Our next goal is 400. I mean, down the road, I'd love to see thousands of students behind this program if we can afford to do that, right? And to support that. So I would just say our goal is to continue to grow, you know, keeping the quality of the program, but growing it at the same time. It'd be great to see many, many more students be able to take advantage of this great program.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you know, Omar may have a few questions for you, but I was thinking kind of one more question. You had mentioned on several occasions the importance of DEI, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And as you know, this has been a concern for UF for many years in terms of, you know, how we recruit, you know, students, you know, first gen, students of color, et cetera, et cetera. How does MFOS help fulfill the DEI goals, and why does that matter? So I guess I'm asking you a kind of a two-story question, if you will. Like, why is it important for UF? But then, what is the broader social significance?
Sure. Well, I think if you look at the numbers and the statistics of MFOS, it's highly diverse, right? We have a high number of people of color, of different ethnicity, you know, different race, color, background. So that in and of itself supports the overarching goal of University of Florida of having DEI and having that as one of our, you know, forefront goals, if you will. So it just automatically, just by the people that we are recruiting, the scholars and the students that we are recruiting, supports University of Florida's DEI goals. So.
Excellent.
I was going to ask, what can MFOS students and alumni do to continue to help and support the program and make it grow?
Well, I think alumni can always help with opportunities in providing internship programs, right? Job opportunities, participating in job fairs. I know that Leslie and her team do a lot of different activities, if you will, surrounding this, helping students with their resume writing skills, interviewing skills, you know, their LinkedIn skills. You know, those are some of the soft skills that I mentioned earlier. So I think from an alumni perspective, you know, if you are in a corporate environment, if you are a business owner, if you work for a corporation that has opportunities for these scholars, it's making that available, right? I think as students, I think that the students that are already in a program have a great network, but I think for other students is as you progress and you continue to grow and you're in a position to give back to the University of Florida, that this is the perfect place to designate your donations, you know, as you are able to give back, designate it to MFOS so that we can grow the program. I think that's a way of establishing and maintaining that successful track record, if you will, of growing MFOS.
Cool. Thank you. I was going to ask, you talked about like the next step is increasing the number of students who can get the MFOS scholarship. Can you talk about how that's we can accomplish that? Like, how does the Leadership Council do that, and how does Dr. Pendleton help with that?
Right. Well, you know, obviously it's directly tied. A big component of that is how much money is coming in to support MFOS. So there's different sources and resources that we get from the state. A lot of it is through private donations. We have the Gator Giving Day. That's a great opportunity. We try to promote that. I also serve on the foundation, University of Florida Foundation National Board. And this year, we made it a goal to have a 100% participation rate for all the board members to give something to MFOS, irregardless of how much it is. It doesn't have to be big dollars. It can be, as little as, can be small dollars, but just the fact that you're contributing and that you're giving that money to MFOS. So we've asked, President Fox has supported it. Everybody is on board with this. And we've asked all of the board members for all of the, whether it's the National Foundation, the Alumni Association, all the various boards that support University of Florida, we've asked for 100% participation to give something, back to MFOS. And so we're on that path. So it is tied to funds, obviously, because it does take money to support the program. So there is a direct correlation of the money that comes in, how fast and how much we can grow the program.
Thank you. My next question is, for like a future student listening to this, how do they get involved in like the leadership and, start helping build MFOS as soon as they graduate, or even later when they're more settled?
Okay, that's a great question. Well, it's all about networking, right? And I think this is such a tight-knit group. Everybody is so supportive because they're so appreciative of the opportunity that was given to them by attending University of Florida through the MFOS program. So all of the students that I interact with, they want to participate. They want to stay connected. So I think Leslie's done a fantastic job of keeping that connection alive, if you will, keeping that network as they graduate and as they become alums, to keep that network. So she does a lot of different networking events. Obviously with COVID, a lot of it has been virtual, but pre-COVID and I think after COVID, we'll go back to having live alumni gathering events and just keeping that connection. And people do want to give back. When they've been given that opportunity, they want to pay it forward and give back. So I would say just stay in touch with Leslie and the MFOS group, and it will come. That networking is there, that infrastructure is there, and we can easily provide people the pathway of how to give back to the MFOS program. And keep spreading the word, right? Keep spreading the word. Keep telling stories. So, which is what we're doing.
Wonderful. Well, Monisa, we want to be respectful of your time, and we've taken a lot of it already. But just maybe one more question. How has the global pandemic affected MFOS and in your work with it? It's been challenging for everyone, right? But how has in particular affected the MFOS?
That's a great question. I think if you read some of the articles that came out during the COVID period, it did have an impact, I think, on some universities in terms of overall enrollment, right? Some schools were up, some were down. People were afraid to go to college. People really didn't know. But I'm very proud of Leslie and the work that they've done. I think for the most part, the people that we did offer MFOS scholarship to did come to the University of Florida. It's highly competitive. We're not able to accommodate all of the applicants because it is competitive, but for the numbers that we were able to support, we were able to maintain that. So I think hats off to Leslie and her team for working through that and maintain that program and the growth that we're seeing in the program.
Wonderful. Well, are there any thoughts or ideas, Monisa, before we kind of conclude, that you'd like to share?
Well, I think you guys are doing, what needs to be done, and that's to help us tell the story. And I love to hear, Bernie and Chris Machen's story about how they, in the early days, and how this became the MFOS, right, program. And you mentioned Jeb Bush earlier. Obviously, he was a big part of it in the early days. So I think getting people like that behind this and helping us tell the story will only help us continue to grow and continue the success that we've been seeing, and hopefully it'll just keep on going. So thank you very much for this opportunity and helping us spread the word and tell the story about MFOS. It's great.
Okay, Monisa. Well, thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule. You know how to get in contact with us, either directly or through Leslie, Dr. Pendleton, of course. And if there are any other kind of follow-up thoughts or ideas you want to share, just don't hesitate. Well, you know how to find us, right?
Thank you. I can't wait to see the finished product.
Yes,
So hopefully you'll share that with everybody, right, that participated. So.
Oh yes, we're going into production this summer, and then we will be able to share that in a number of different media. So yeah, we're really excited.
Can't wait. All right. Well, listen, thank you so much, and you guys have a great day. Okay.
All right. Thank you. You too.
Okay.
Be well.
Bye.
Bye bye.